Hello, this video will cover tests. It's part one of a three-part series. Part one is creating a test, which will cover creating test questions, and we'll cover a couple of different types of test questions and applying point values to the test. In part two, we'll discuss deploying a test and the test settings, and part three will cover advanced functions like the import, export, and reusing previous questions. Let's get started by navigating in the control panel under Course Tools to Test Surveys and Pools, and then to the Tests area. To begin, we'll click Build Test. We're required to give the test a name. There's an option to provide a description. This is a good area to indicate to students what materials will be covered on the test, what chapters or what conceptual materials are covered on the test, and then there's an area for any additional instructions you would like to provide to students. Once you have those areas completed, click Submit, and the test has been created. This area is the test canvas for quiz 1, but the test has no questions. To create a question, from the Create Questions menu, you select the question type. We are going to cover a few of the most common test types, beginning with multiple choice. A test title is not required, but the actual question text is. You'll notice we have access on each test question to the full text editor. So if you only see one line of tools, over on the right hand corner, click the double down arrows to expand that to all 3 rows of tools, including those multimedia mashups, which are so helpful. In the question text box, we're going to enter our question. When we scroll down, we have various options for the display of the multiple choice question. By default, the answer options are not numbered or lettered, and we can select A, B, C, or D, uppercase, lowercase, Roman numerals, however we like. By default, the answer orientation is vertical. We can also switch that to horizontal. We can allow partial credit, and this is handy if you have a question where you have an answer for A and B and C, and then an A and B or A and C choice, and students select A or B, but not the A and B answer. So there's also a Show Answers in Random Order button, which means that no matter what order you've typed them in the boxes below, they will be shuffled with the test attempt. And this is handy because if we scroll down here and we see our answer choices, and by default there are 4, you can number those up to 100, although I do not recommend that. We would enter our answer choices in these boxes. By default, the correct answer is set to box number 1. And the reason why showing the answers in random order is helpful is if we're typing out a lengthy multiple choice test, we can continuously put the correct answer in that first box and not have to worry about moving it into another box and selecting the correct answer radio button next to those. We can just always put it in that top box. It's a little more efficient, but then we won't, when the test randomly orders them, students won't just have A as the correct answer for each question. So that can be really helpful when we're first creating a test. And we'll go ahead and enter our answers here. And we are using the shuffle function, and we did put our correct answer in that first box, so we're going to go ahead and leave that radio button right there. Under the feedback options, you have 2 different boxes. One is for a correct response feedback, which is helpful if you want to reiterate a point related to the concept in the question for students, or give them further information or simple encouragement. Then in the incorrect feedback response box, it's helpful to put information that guides students towards resources that will help them learn the material that they've missed in this question. You do have sorting options of categories, topics, levels of difficulty, and keywords, and those are helpful if you plan to use questions repeatedly over the course of the semester or over the course of many semesters in other courses, and will reuse these questions by exporting the test to another course. So those are just some sorting functions, and they work just about as you would imagine: categories, topics, level of difficulty, and keywords. The instructor's notes are visible to instructors only and not to students. Sometimes this can be a good area to put information that you would want to relate to students about the question should it become an issue in the class where a lot of students are missing it. Okay, and once we've completed all of our information, we can click submit and create another multiple choice question, another question of this type, or we can click submit and go back to the test canvas. So we're going to click submit, and you'll notice that by default the question is worth 10 points. We need only click on the question value, and we can change that to whatever number of points we like. We can also assign it as extra credit for the test, and that will be worth 2 points of extra credit on the test. So we have that option as well. And click submit to save those changes. Let's go ahead and create another question. We'll create an essay type question because that's fairly common. Again, the question title is not required, but the question text is. So we'll enter the question text in the box again. Alright, and we have our question text in our text box. Below we have the answer box. Now, essay questions are not automatically graded by Blackboard as multiple choice or true-false questions are, but you can put an example of a correct response or a list of elements that should have been included for the answer to be correct or right in that answer box, so that if you have those options selected in the deployment, which we'll talk about in part 2, students will be able to see that and kind of gauge for themselves if they were close to a correct answer. You can also add a rubric for the essay question. That's an option that is not available on true-false or multiple choice questions, auto-graded questions, but it is available on essay questions, and we have other videos that cover rubrics in greater detail. Here again, you can add this question to a specific category, a specific topic, level of difficulty, and you can add keywords to it. And the instructor notes, once again, are available only to you as the instructor and not to the students. We can submit and create another question of this type, essay, or we can submit and return to the test canvas. We're going to submit. We're back at the test canvas, and again, the default was 10 points. Now you may have various point values for different question types. However, if you've created multiple questions and you forgot to change the point value, or you didn't want to change the point value every time, you can select all. So if you had like 50 multiple choice questions, you certainly wouldn't want to have to click on every single one and change the point value and click submit. You can select all of them, enter the number of points possible, click update, and it will update all of them. Then if you had individual questions, essay question, short answer, that you wanted to have worth slightly more points, you could select those individually and update just those point values, or you could select each one and independently update the point value on those. So that is creating test questions. There's a link for a description of every individual question type, but those are a couple of the most commonly used questions, and then applying point values. You'll notice you didn't have to create a point value for the test as a whole because the points per question will automatically be calculated in Blackboard. Okay, once we're finished with our questions, we'll click OK, and there's our test. So we will continue test in part 2 to demonstrate how to deploy a test to students.